on this computer. I guess if the rest of us mute ourselves during your class, then you'll stay as a speaker. So we'll
for sure. I can, you can manually mute yourself. You should be able to. Also, I was telling Emma before you guys got here is that my webcam is on the wall and my computer is on my couch. So that's why I look like I'm looking down all the time, because I'm not used to having to look at my wall. Okay, so I took my 200-hour training, I don't know what year it was, a few years ago, and with Soya, the same program. And then because I come from a background of personal training, I really like the anatomy, physiology side of things. So I was looking for a 300-hour training to take that kind of complemented that interest of mine. And I found a lady named Jules Mitchell, who is a biomechanics person. So I just actually did her training last year. It was divided in 2 parts. I went down to Las Vegas in March and September last year. And I just got my certificate. Oh, there's somebody coming in. Oh no, it's a chat, just kidding. And I just got my 500-hour certificate officially like a month and a half ago. So, woohoo! Oh, you're here. Yay, Annalie is here. Cool. So when I teach, I kind of go back and forth between this weird combination of the roots of what Soya taught me, and then bringing in strange experiments with the body coming from my biomechanics side with Jules. So that's what we're going to play with tonight. If you have blocks in your home, I don't know what kind of stuff you guys have. If you have them handy. And if you don't have them, just something that you can like squeeze, like a book or something. It doesn't even, just something that you can do like this with. Ideally thicker is better, but I'm going to be using a block. So whatever you guys have that you can use like that. Okay, so we're going to start on our back, and my cats are going to walk all over me while we're doing class. This is Moo. So you guys can go ahead and come down onto your back, and you can lay in whatever way you feel comfortable. You can lay in reclined cobbler. You can lay in constructive rest pose with your feet on the floor, or you could be more in a Shavasana style shape.
Alisha,
yep.
Do you want to be able to see us, or do you want us just to be able to see you?
I can see you. I have my settings so that I can see you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you want everyone to be viewable on their videos, or just if we kind of listen along and follow along, that's okay?
It's really whatever you're comfortable with. If somebody would rather not be viewable, you can totally turn off your video. I'm comfortable with that. You guys all know what you're doing. So whatever your personal choice is. And then just make sure your microphone is muted so there's not a lot of kind of background noise. Yeah, so when you're ready, you can come down into whatever position you are able to relax in. Whether it be that Shavasana shape or Uttanasana. And make sure that your arms are adjusted in a way that your shoulders and your neck can feel relaxed as well. And just take a moment to observe how you're coming into your practice, both physically. So notice where in your body you're feeling specific sensations like tension. And make sure you notice the positive things too. So if you're noticing tension, see if you can notice places where there is no tension and where you're able to relax a little bit. Just scanning over the body, seeing what you find. And notice as well how you're coming into your practice mentally. You may not feel like you have the headspace for this right now, and that's okay. Maybe you're really ready for it and you're looking forward to it. Just acknowledge whatever that is for you. And then begin to notice the pattern of your breath. Everything about your breath. Does it feel like it's coming from your nose, your collarbones, chest, rib cage, or down in your belly? And I know that as teachers, we have this idea of what something should be. And I really, really encourage you to try and let that go and just notice what is happening for you in your body right now without changing anything. And notice as you breathe, if you can feel this kind of ebb and flow of the physical body. Subtle changes in your physical body that are coming from the breath. And can you feel a shift in the way that your rib cage is sitting on the floor? A shift in the way that your lower back is sitting on the floor? Can you feel a shift in the back of your head? Just any super subtle movement coming from the ebb and flow of your breath. And then I just encourage you to let any of that specific noticing go and just be where you are for a couple of moments. Think about whatever you want to, experience, notice whatever you want to, just exist in this moment as it is. And just begin to now start to bring small movements into the body. So maybe you wiggle your toes, wiggle your fingers, open your mouth really wide, and then let the jaw relax. Just slowly bringing in this sense of movement and making it a little bit bigger as you feel ready. And I am a big lover of free movement. So if there's any movement right now that your body is really asking for, you can go ahead and explore whatever that is. Maybe your knees want to rock side to side. Maybe you want to give your knees a hug and sway. Maybe you want to stretch really big. Whatever your body wants. And then we're going to start to play with some noticing of the shoulders. So I encourage you to just listen and interpret this however it comes into your body. Don't worry too much about looking and seeing exactly what's going on. You can bring your hands down by your sides so that your fingertips are pointing towards your heels. And see if you can let your shoulders relax as much as possible. Just let your arms kind of flop down there as they will without worrying about what angle they're pointing at. Really feel the way that your shoulder blades are sitting on the mat below you. Just feel it, don't change it. And then start to take your arms in an arc so that you're drawing this sort of half circle. Your fingers, your hands lift off the floor, your arms stay relatively straight. And you're slowly drawing this arc so that your hands eventually end up stacked over top of your shoulders, and then your thumbs start to move down towards the floor behind your head. And just notice what this feels like. You don't have to go all the way to the floor. Just come as far as it feels good for you, but your shoulders are relaxed. You're not bringing any tension into the body. And then you can bring them all the way back down, back beside your hips. And just move a couple times slowly back and forth. And I want you just to notice what you feel happening in your shoulders. There's no wrong answer here, it's just a curiosity. And notice where your range of motion is. Do your thumbs touch the floor? Do you stop a couple inches away? Just curious. And then pause for a moment and take a breath. Now this is where our block comes in. If you have a block, great. If not, again, you can use a book or something like that. Even if you don't have anything, you can create the sensation that we're going to be looking for without any props. It's just a lot easier to use the props. So you're going to have the block between your hands and your palms are open. So you're not gripping the block with your fingers. You just have this open hand. And you're going to straighten your arms and bring your hands down as far towards your legs as you can. So the block should be touching your legs. So we're starting as far down as we can. And then you're going to start to squeeze the block in between your hands. So you're pressing your hands into the block and just noticing all of the muscles in your arms and your chest and your shoulders start to activate. And I want you to continue squeezing this block as hard as you can. Again, no fingers, just palms. Press your hands into the block as firmly as you can and very slowly start to again move your arms in that arc. So eventually your hands end up over your shoulders. Squeeze the block really, really hard, really firmly. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. And notice where your range of motion wants to stop. For me, it's a good foot different than it was before. And again, move slowly back so the block is touching your legs. And do that 1 or 2 more times. I'm just going to pop up here once in a while and make sure there's no weird glitches happening. So we're looking at the difference between our range of motion when our muscles are passive versus active. And you may not have a difference in your range of motion, or maybe you do. Again, it's just this curiosity that we're playing with. So if you notice that your range of motion is a little bit more limited with this action into the block, let's relax just for a second. You can lay your block onto your stomach and just let your hands relax down by your hips. And this next piece you can do whether your hands touch the floor or not. We're just going to add a little bit to this. So we were having this movement come entirely from our shoulders, and we were keeping the rest of our body fairly still. So let's come back into that starting shape with the hands on either side of the block. Open palm, squeeze your block really firmly. Let's do just one without moving anything else. So you're just going to start to arc your arms, really squeeze the block, squeeze, 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 squeeze. Notice how far your arms get, and then come back. Keep squeezing the block. Try not to let that go. Maybe your chest is going to be sore tomorrow. Now, as you go back into your second arc, when you reach the end of your range of motion, squeeze that block really hard. You're going to start to use your spine to extend your range of motion. So maybe if you lift your rib cage a little bit, you can deepen your range of motion a little bit further. So experiment with that and notice what you need to do with your spine in order to increase your range of motion. Maybe your lower back lifts a little bit, maybe your thoracic spine, that middle back area where the rib cage attaches, maybe that lifts a little bit. And just notice how using your spine integration with your shoulders gives you that deeper range of motion, even through active muscle tension. Now, you might be tired, so you can stop at any time. Just take a few breaths whenever you're ready. Or maybe you're like, this is really cool, I want to do a couple more. So just do what works for you. And then take a rest when you feel ready. So we're going to start to move into a different area of the body. So I'm just doing a couple of little things today, and I'm going to kind of briskly move through them because we just have an hour. So laying on your back still, have your knees bent and your feet standing on the floor, and just let your shoulders relax. We did some work in the shoulders and the chest. Just let all of that relax as much as you can. And then you're going to lift your right foot into the air, and you're going to have it at an angle where you can completely straighten it. So I'd rather it be further away and straight than really pulled close to your chest but super bent. So straighten your leg and pull your toe down towards your kneecap so that your ankle is flexed. And you're actively pushing your heel up into the ceiling so that the leg muscles are all active. And notice what direction your toes are pointing. So maybe they're pointing straight over your head, or maybe they're a little bit angled outwards. Just notice where you're naturally angling your hip here. And then continuing to press through the heel so your leg muscles are active, you're going to start to externally rotate your hip joint. Your knee and your thigh bone all turn to face the right. So you're just rotating your leg and then turning it back to center. Rotate your leg and turning it back to center. So this is the movement that happens in our hip when we do things like pigeon pose. And all we're doing is isolating that external rotation of the hip joint. And this is an active external rotation because we're doing it with our muscles and not with this external pressure that usually happens when we're doing a pose like pigeon. So this is your true, legit external rotation. So next time your toes are facing the right and your hip is rotated, you're going to cross your right ankle over your left knee and come into what you might call thread the needle or reclined pigeon. Now, we do have a tendency to kind of make this pose more dramatic by picking up our left foot and then holding our hands behind our legs, but we're going to make this active again. So think about driving your right knee, no hands, just think about pressing into an invisible wall with your right knee. As you exhale, pick your left foot up off the floor, no hands, and actively squeeze your left knee in towards your chest. Continue pressing away with your right knee. As you inhale, put your left foot back down and continue pressing away with your right. Always moving away from your face. And your exhale picks your left foot up. Squeeze your knee towards your chest as far as you can and inhale back down. So we have this active movement happening. Your left hip flexor is working and the back of your right hip is stretching. So we kind of have this funky dynamic thing going on. And you're seeing how far you can stretch and squeeze that knee into your chest with just your muscles. Just do one more. And then settle that foot back down, uncross your knee or your ankle, and just take a moment. You can be still. You can find movement that your body is craving. Do whatever is feeling good for you. And then let's do our second side. So your left foot comes into the sky, straighten your leg actively, press your heel as though you have like 100 pounds on your foot and you're trying to press it up into the sky, really strong. Pull your toes down towards your knee, and then start to notice what angle your toes are at right now before you purposefully do the external rotation. And then turn your toes, your shin, your knee, and your thigh to the left, and then back to center. Do you notice anything different about this side's capabilities? So you can kind of go back and forth a couple times, trying to keep the heel pressing upwards the whole time and trying to keep the leg muscles active. Do you notice that this side has a different range actively? And then the next time your toes are pointing left, you can cross your ankle over that opposite leg. Think about pressing your left knee away from your face into that invisible wall. Exhale and pick your right foot up off the floor. Squeeze your knee in towards your chest. And inhale and bring it back down. Consistently trying to press your left knee away. Do 2, 4, 5 of these, whatever your body is good with. Just do them in your own time, no rush. And when you are feeling done with that, you can again uncross your ankle, just take a moment, do what feels right for you. Now, eventually we're going to make our way around so that we're on our hands and knees. Don't rush. You can roll over onto your side. You can spend some time there. When you get onto your hands and knees, give yourself some time to adjust. Do some cat-cow. Wiggle your hips around. Do some rib cage circles. Roll your neck and your shoulders. Do what feels good. So while we're in table, can you mimic the strength that you had while you were squeezing the block? Can you mimic that strength in your shoulders and your chest while you're here in table? You're basically just trying to drag your hands towards one another on your mat and seeing what that feels like in your chest and shoulders. Just getting a little bit of that activation. And we can activate this way or 100 other ways. So there's no particular way that we should be activating here. It just depends on what you're trying to experience. So right now, let's see if we can squeeze our arms together, drag our hands towards each other. You're just creating that tension. There's no actual movement happening, right? So that's called an isometric contraction. You're going to see if you can keep that in your chest and your shoulders as you come into your downward dog. So when we're doing these intentional activations, poses can feel like 600 times more work. So please just respect where you're at today. Be there for a few seconds, relax, chill, come back into it. I'm all for that. Okay, so experiment with that. You can kind of come in and out of that activation, let it go, come back into it in downward dog. Notice what it feels like as opposed to coming into it from table to downward dog. Again, please take a little break whenever you need to. We're gonna move on here. So from your downward dog, trying to maintain that action in your shoulders and your chest, you're gonna take your right foot up into the sky for your 3-legged dog. Now, let's recreate the shape in our leg that we were just using when we were doing that external rotation. So press your heel away, pull your toes down towards your knee, make your leg as straight as you can. Notice what angle your toes are pointing at, and then externally rotate your hips. So your toes, your shin, your knee, and your thigh all rotate towards the right. And then back to center. And when you do that, see if you can make your leg turn and not your entire pelvis, right? There's a difference, and you can probably do them on purpose. You can turn your hip like we would if we were going to go into wild thing, or you can rotate just your hip joint. Do that 1 or 2 times, and then come out of it, come into downward dog, rest if you want to, child's pose, cat, cow, table, whatever, okay? Give your arms a shake, do what feels good, and then experiment with your side too. So when you're ready, find that activation in downward dog, squeeze your arms together, activate your shoulders and your chest. Take left leg up into 3-legged dog. Flex your ankle, press your heel away, make your leg as straight as you can. Notice what angle your toes are pointing at before you turn them on purpose. And then turn your entire leg to the left without moving your pelvis. Do it 1 or 2 times. And then see what it feels like to do your pelvis on purpose, and notice what that does. Notice how it's different than turning just your hip joint, not your pelvis. And again, as many times as you want to, and then rest. Water, cat, cow, downward dog, child's pose. I'm a very pacey teacher. Wander around up here and drink water. So we're gonna end up in Uttanasana. So you can walk your way up to the front of your mat when you feel like you want to. And your Uttanasana can look like whatever. You can support yourself halfway. You can be really floppy. You can have bent knees, straight legs. You can grab onto your elbows. You can sway. You can pedal your knees out. You can support your hands on blocks. Find a version of this that you feel good in right now. And just a little side note on that, we often have our default version of poses, but I encourage you to always play with a couple different options every time you do them, because maybe one day something different is going to feel good, but you won't know until you try. And you can always go back to your standard, always, always. It's good just to try and see how your body responds. So let's slide our hands all the way up our legs and come into mountain pose, Tadasana. Your eyes can close or they can stay open. Just take a couple breaths here. And then notice how active or not active your legs are right now. And then see if you can again kind of mimic that action in the legs that we were looking for. Press your heels down into the floor. Activate all your leg muscles like you're trying to press your feet through the floor. And let that strength and let that energy sort of radiate up the rest of your body through your torso and out through the crown of your head. So your body has this really strong, powerful stance. And let that strength come through as you move through 1 or 2 half sun salutations just with your own breath. And I will, just out of habit, kind of verbally guide you through it, but if you're super familiar with them and you love them, just do it with your own breath. So take a big breath in and reach your arms upwards. Your gaze can follow or not. And as you exhale, fold all the way down into that Uttanasana. Inhale to a flat back, half forward fold shape. And exhale all the way down. Inhale all the way back up, reaching your arms upwards. And then we're going to flow right through. So exhale all the way back down. Inhale half. Exhale fold. And inhale all the way up. And you can go 1 or 2 more times if you're feeling good and you're a little bit of a flowy person, or you can hang out for a couple breaths in your mountain pose. Do what feels right for just a few moments. And then eventually let's end up back together into our mountain pose. Hands can come to the heart. And then you're going to step your left foot back, nice big stance, and turn both of your feet to the left so that you end up into this wide-legged stance with your toes pointing towards the long edge of your mat. And we're going to do quite a bit of stuff from this stance as our kind of base camp. So coming back to our external rotation, we're going to start with our right leg. Now, even though we have this abduction, so moving away from our center, even though we have this abduction of the legs and the hip joints, we can still do external rotation. So you're going to pick up your right toes, keep your heel planted. Take your attention now to your right hip joint and start to rotate your toes, your shin, your knees, and your thigh all the way into what we would use for our warrior two. So notice if your pelvis changed positions. It's okay if it did, okay? And then pick your toes up and put them back where they were. So your toes are pointing towards the long edge of your mat. Now, if you want to do that again slowly to kind of notice again what it feels like in your hip, you can. We're going to do it differently this time. And then you're going to choose which one feels the best. So the second version, I kind of like to start from a little bit of a wider stance for this one because your foot ends up moving towards you instead of away from you. Instead of picking up your toes, you're going to pick up your heel of your right foot. Your toes stay planted. And then you're going to rotate. You're still externally rotating, but you're sliding your heel in to the long edge of your mat so that your toes are pointing forwards. So now that just essentially changes the alignment of your pose. We get really wrapped up in like heel to heel or heel to arch alignment, but really, does this feel good in your body? Can you control your range of motion from this position? You can come in and out of this wide stance a couple different times, play with each variation. I know it seems small, whatever, your heel, your toe, but they feel really different if you pay attention to that right hip a little bit. So whatever one you decide to use, do that one. And then take a couple breaths in your warrior two. So bend that right knee, reach the arms out. So we've spent lots of time talking about our external rotation. When we are in warrior two, we also kind of get into this, your knee has to point in a specific direction, blah, 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 blah. But your hip is already in external rotation. So there's not really a ton of point of pressing your knee further out to the side. You're just going way into this external rotation that maybe our hip doesn't like. So just hang out here, see how it feels. Notice which way your knee is pointing without wanting to change it. It's all right. You don't have a 20-ton truck sitting on your leg. It's all good. All right. And then you're going to take your hands to your heart and pivot into a lunge. So you're facing the front of your mat. And then you're going to shift your weight into that front foot and come up into your warrior three. And we're gonna do that same thing with our left foot. Press your heel away, pull your toes towards your kneecap. Notice where your toe is pointing naturally, and then try that external rotation. Toes, shin, knees, thigh turns to the left without letting your pelvis turn into what would be half moon pose. So try to just get that external rotation of the hip joint and not the entire pelvis. I know. This is so much to ask on a Wednesday night, I'm sorry. Do that 1 or 2 times. And then you're gonna land that foot back down into your lunge and turn all the way to your wide-legged stance, toes towards your wide edge or your long edge. And then we're gonna go through the whole thing on side 2. So again, if you picked a favorite way of rotating your leg on the right side, don't get attached to it on the left side. Try both. Pick up your toes, turn them to the left, bring them back. Try it a couple times, do it with your heel, but move slowly. Don't go like whoop, whoop, whoop. Do it slowly, feel it. Feel the actual rotation of the joint, feel the muscles doing that for you. Our body is so cool. Look how many ways we can do this one simple thing. Spend a few breaths in your warrior 2. Notice what your hip feels like. You can come out of it, change the way that you did your rotation with your foot, and then come back into your warrior 2 just to notice how that feels, right? I just love experimenting. And then turn into your lunge with your hands at your heart. Find your way into your warrior 3. Press your heel away. Notice where your toes are pointing, and then try that external rotation of the right leg, not the pelvis. When you're ready, come back into your lunge and rotate back to your wide-legged stance. And then we're gonna come right into the first side again, but we're gonna skip some of the stuff. So pick your favorite way of rotating, and hey, who knows, it might have changed. Try it. Turn all the way into your lunge. So right foot ahead, left foot back, hands at heart center. We're gonna come right from our lunge. I'm gonna go this way actually so you can see what I'm gonna do here. We're gonna come right from our lunge into a one-legged Tadasana. So you're gonna shift your weight forward into your right foot, and then you're gonna pick your left foot up and bring it all the way through into this one-legged Tadasana. Now here, my knee and my ankle are stacked. I'm gonna create this external rotation in my hip. Flex your ankle so your toes are pulled up. Keep your knee as pinned as you can and rotate your left ankle up to the side as though you were trying to do pigeon pose in midair. And then bring it back down and step back to your lunge. Flow a couple times here. Shift up into your one-legged Tadasana. Lift your ankle, find that rotation, and then move back. Now this is interesting because even though it kind of feels like it's not external rotation, because even though our ankle is moving this way, our hip is still rotating out, right? But the ankle is moving across, so it kind of feels like it's not external rotation, but it is, I promise. So next time you're here crossing the ankle, land that ankle on your right leg, sit your hips down into one-legged chair pose or standing pigeon or whatever you want to call it for fun. See if you can press your left knee away like you were when you were doing it on the floor. And then stand all the way up, lift your knee back up with you, step back into your lunge and rotate to your wide angle. And then try it on the other side. Left leg rotates out into this shape. Turn into your lunge. I'm gonna face front again. And then you're gonna bring your weight into your left foot. Pick your right foot up all the way through to your one-legged Tadasana. This knee stays planted. Ankle goes up and across. So you're trying not to let your leg go like this, basically, as you're doing that cross. Try and keep this still and that. And then go back and forth a couple times. Woo, wobbly today. I'm gonna blame it on the carpet. So again, notice if your sides feel different from one another. They probably do. We have kind of this asymmetrical body all in every single joint. Eventually, you're going to go into that one-legged chair. So from your rotation, cross your ankle and sit down into your hips. You'll probably notice that my cueing for some of these poses is super minimal. I'm doing that for a couple reasons. A, because you're in teacher training. And B, because I have tried not to overwhelm. You can come out of this pose whenever you want to, by the way. You can come back into your wide-legged stance. I try and keep my cueing relevant to what my intention is behind the class. So my focus today is this like active range of motion. So I don't really want to talk about like relaxing your shoulders and your jaw and where your weight and your foot should be. All of those things are really wonderful, especially if you're teaching like a general class, but I have a specific intention. So that's why I'm not really talking about anything else, because it doesn't play very much into what I'm trying to get you to feel. So from your wide-legged stance, again, take some free movement. This could look like going back through anything that we've done so far. And it could also mean just like hanging out here in a wide-legged forward fold. So what does your body want? We're going to go through each side one more time with our block. So sometimes sensations change when we add another job to our body. So you're going to have your block or your book or whatever. And if you don't have a prop, you can create this idea of this tension in the shoulders and the chest without actually grabbing onto something. Again, it's just easier. So wide-legged stance, just have your block. Turn your right foot out to the side, however way you choose to do it, and switch into your lunge. You're going to hold that block or your book or whatever between your hands, again with an open palm, so you're not using your fingers, just your palm. Squeeze your block really, really hard. Activate all the shoulder and chest muscles. As you come forward, shift your weight into your right foot. Keep squeezing your block. I know it'll kind of fade in and out. And lift your hands as you shift forward and lift your left knee. Squeeze your block, and then come back down. Now, when you have, keep going a couple times, when you have this tension in your hands, it encourages the rest of your body to be stronger and more taut, right? So notice if your leg movement feels strong or if it feels floppy. Maybe the block is just distracting and your leg movement feels floppy. That's okay. Now, you can choose to keep flowing, or you can choose to cross that ankle and sit into your one-legged chair, squeeze the block, just for a little bit of fun. Flow or hold, it's totally your choice, okay? Whatever you're doing, just notice what the addition of this strength brings into your pose? What does it do? There's no expected answer here. It's just, again, curiosity. And then eventually, when you're back in your lunge, relax your shoulders, shake them out a little bit, pivot to your wide-legged, and then we're gonna find the other side. Left foot rotates open, turn into your lunge, find your block, squeeze the living daylights out of it, and then keep that tension as you shift up into your one-legged Tadasana, back and forth a couple of times. See how much control you can have over particularly the back step. Lots of the time we just kind of fumble into the space behind us. How much control do you have over that movement? You can keep flowing again or add your one-legged chair. A few breaths there, whichever one you like. And you don't have to do the same thing as you did on the other side. We do not have to have a perfectly symmetrical practice. I know, sacrilege. Eventually, stepping back into your lunge, returning to your wide-legged stance, and just bring your block onto the floor. Find your movement from here, whether that be something we did, something completely different that we haven't done that you have a serious craving to do, or just chill, whatever you want. You can even just stand and like boogie your hips and stretch out the inner thighs. So we're going to rotate back to the front of our mat and just step up into your Tadasana. Hi, buddy. Are you coming to do yoga with us? So from the top of your mat, take a few breaths, get back grounded. If you want to do a half sun salutation or anything else, you can, or you can just be here in your stillness. And then we'll do a half sun salutation, well, kind of together to come down to the floor. So let's take a big breath in, reach the arms up, big open chest, gaze follows, and then exhale, fold all the way down, scratch your kitty's bum. Inhale to your flat back, and exhale, fold. And then plant your hands and step back to your downward facing dog. And then you can do what feels good here. So I do have in my plan a pose from our belly. And I know that we do have, one of you is pregnant, so please modify as you feel you need to. You can do a seated twist here if that's something you're comfortable with. We're just gonna do a really quick scorpion pose. So coming down onto your belly, hands underneath your shoulders. I need them to see anything. Take your left hand out to the side, and your right hand is still underneath your shoulder. Maybe I'll go this way so you can see what I'm doing. Left hand out to the side, right hand underneath the shoulder. You're gonna bend your right leg, so your foot's pointing towards the ceiling. And then you're gonna press into your right hand and drop your right foot over behind you. So you're coming into a twist, a chest stretch, and a hip flexor and quad stretch. Lots of stuff going on. If your right foot does not touch the floor, you can just kind of drape your leg on your bottom leg. Okay. Let's come back to center, and then we'll do the other side. Right hand out, left hand underneath the shoulder, left leg bends, and then press yourself over, coming onto that right side. Again, put your left leg wherever it will go. And then let's come back to center. And you can just scoop yourself around so that you're right onto your back. Now, I don't have kind of this go-to closing sequence that I do a lot. I really like to do a twist, and then I like to have a pose that is equalizing, so the same on both sides. So you can end with a happy baby pose. You can end with a reclined cobbler's pose. Just one last pose before Shavasana that helps you feel relaxed. Again, similar to what we did at the beginning, anything that allows your body to feel relaxed. And it may not be the same as it was at the beginning of class. And once you have spent the time there that your body is asking for, you can settle into a Shavasana that feels right for your body. So personally, when I don't have a ton of props, or when my body has been kind of sore from lack of movement, I prefer to keep my legs bent and my knees sort of resting together in constructive rest pose. But if my body is really happy, then I'm happy with my legs straight in Shavasana. So organize yourself in a way that feels good. It doesn't have to be a traditional Shavasana. Some people even just choose to sit on the couch or in a chair or with their back against a wall. And when you've settled into this place of physical comfort, take a few grounding breaths, nice deep full breaths. Allow your inhalations to bring in this sense of nourishment. Every breath in fills the body with nourishment, energy, and joy. And each exhalation takes that nourishment, takes that joy, and sends it through the body right out to the tips of the toes and fingers. A few more breaths like that. And then release the control of your breath if you feel like you're controlling it. Just allow your breath to breathe you. And take the next few moments to just exist as you are. So let's slowly begin to notice our surroundings. Just feel the temperature of the air on your skin. Notice sounds from all directions. And start to bring in little gentle movements, whatever comes naturally to you. Fingers, toes, head. And then reach your arms overhead and stretch your hands away, stretch your feet away, get really, really big. And then if it feels good for you, you can squeeze your knees into your chest. And then you can roll over onto one side. And eventually come up into a seated position. However that looks. Again, your back could be against the wall, or you could be in a chair, or cross-legged or kneeling. And just take a moment to offer some gratitude to yourself and your body, your beautiful, strong, powerful body. Thank you, thank you, thank you, body. And extend gratitude as well to the community that you have together. Let's take a big breath in, reach the arms overhead. Big exhalation, hands arrive at the heart center. One more big deep breath in. And full breath out. Thank you so much for having me as your guest and for sharing your practice and your time with me today. Namaste. Thanks, ladies. I'm just going to actually go